Welcome to Flashpoints. I'm Jeff Pegues, and I'm joined by CBS News senior national security analyst Juan Zarate. Boko Haram has pledged its allegiance to ISIS. Is this more propaganda, or is this an alliance that makes ISIS stronger?
This actually does make ISIS stronger, at least ideologically. In the immediate term, it doesn't necessarily add to the virulence or the potency of ISIS in its fight in Syria and Iraq. And so you're not necessarily going to see a flood of Boko Haram operatives, floating to Syria to help ISIS fight. That said, what this does is it gives wind in the sails of the notion that the Islamic State is really the vanguard of this global jihadi movement. They've now brought this very potent group in West Africa that has flown under the banner of al-Qaeda for a number of years under its tent. And so now you have the reach of the Islamic State all the way from the heart of the Middle East to West Africa. And in some ways, you can begin to see a sort of a connective arc here between the movements that have started to pledge allegiance, like the groups in Libya, like the groups in Sinai. And Boko Haram, which holds territory, is vicious, and is quite potent, has now added their name to the mix.
But how potent is Boko Haram beyond the borders of Nigeria, and does this help that group grow?
Potentially. What you have here is a symbiotic relationship, and so both groups help each other at a minimum with propaganda, potentially with men, materiel, and resources, and certainly ideologically, where they are both now committed to the same cause of the establishment of the Islamic Caliphate. In some ways, Boko Haram establishing sort of the western edge of that caliphate imagined sort of forward. And so, yes, they could potentially help each other. But Boko Haram has proven incredibly potent. You've seen what they've done in northern and northeastern Nigeria. They've incurred into Cameroon. They've begun to threaten Niger and Chad. And that's in part why, Jeff, you've seen this coalition of West African countries coalesce and begin to try to fight to support the Nigerian government against Boko Haram, because all of the countries in that region see it as a destabilizing threat.
Back to a focus on ISIS. There have been reports that ISIS is showing strains. Are those reports accurate?
I think bits and pieces of that reporting are accurate, because the Islamic State is coming under real pressure. There's no question about that. The air assaults, the offensives coming from the Kurds, not just in Iraq, but also Syria, as well as some of the activity that we've seen to cut off their resources, for example, their supply of oil and their ability to take it to market. All of that is being squeezed. The reality is, as well, they've got internal fissures. You've got domestic members of the group, like the Iraqi Sunnis. Then you've got a lot of foreign fighters coming in to the tune of thousands. And, in any organization, you're going to have conflicts. And when you're under some degree of stress, you're going to see some fissures. And so I think that's true. But I don't think we should count on the fact that the Islamic State will implode, because they've got a very steep and real hierarchy and real discipline internally.
And so all of this may be building toward this battle in Mosul. We will see. Juan Zarate, I'm Jeff Pegues, and that's Flashpoints.